But the more like vulnerable we can be in whatever circumstances feel safe, the like more well I think we're gonna be, and the like example, we're gonna be more able to set an example for others that like this is okay and this can be safe, and this can actually help you be happier. I think that like it's what's challenging is like binaries generally are not binaries are like limited in inherently limited nature, right? And it's like, and then we have a like socialized gender that tries to really force people to choose. And so part of it's like, let's push back against that entirely and like push away from the binary. Then there's the reality that like socialized gender plays such a major role in our society, it's like unavoidable. And then there's the reality that like many people find a lot of value in masculinity, femininity, being a man, being a woman. So it's all in the mix, and like trying to sort through what's harmful and what's healthy is not always easy. And like for me, it has generally meant about like, I don't know, like I want to say behavior, but like behavior with myself, behavior with other people, and like how do I allow myself to feel, to like be in touch with that, to not run away from that, to express that, to like be able to respond and like hold other people's reactions to things, which has led me away from like a more analytical sense of like what's masculine and feminine. But I do think it's very helpful to like try and distill something about what a more healthy masculinity can be.
It's like there was never a society that puts these things down about which is like relatively new in human history, I think, in the sense of like having women as property and being passed down as property. Um, before that, nobody was like having these kinds of questions. What is it? And people were just doing what they do, and so like the kind of goal of this whole thing, I guess, is like to be able to do what you do, and like not have any like barriers to being a fully human self, right? But I think that to get there, you have to identify what the barriers are, and you have to. I think it helps to start with something that's like tangible.
So much of my
what it is, to be like,
internal work, my like
instead of being like
sort of study and my like practice with other people has been about uprooting, undoing, unlearning the things that have made it more difficult for
in doing this
men
project,
to
I've also
be whole
realized,
people.
damn, I know a lot
And
of
like
kids do.
that is
Like,
largely due
building
to the
men's
way that
groups
men
for
have
a
been
long
conditioned to
time,
dominate other
and I've
people, right?
met a lot of men who are like doing
It's
this
a like
stuff
most of my journey
that
around
I've never
masculinity has
considered that
been around undoing
when I was
domination
thinking
inside
about
of
that.
myself, and like
Like,
thinking about what that means in
because
terms of
I
structures
was
and
always thinking
relationships,
about the
and helping other
negative
people
part of
do
it
that.
when it wasn't. I was so focused on that, but like I didn't recognize the fact that like a lot of the men that I know are like good stand-up men. And I'm like, what are the things that make us all common? And like, how can we build to that? Because I feel like there's lots of, I think the next generation of young men is also trying to find a way to be different than what they.
So much of my internal work, my like sort of study and my like practice with other people has been about uprooting, undoing, unlearning the things that have made it more difficult for men to be whole people. And like that is largely due to the way that men have been conditioned to dominate other people, right? It's a like most of my journey around masculinity has been around undoing domination inside of myself, and like thinking about what that means in terms of structures and relationships, and helping other people do that. I'm going to give you a strange example, but when I was in Montana, I got my first pedicure, and I got one toe painted, and I got it painted this like sort of turquoise blue. And the first day I like went home, and I like thought there was like a piece of trash on the ground because I just wasn't used to it. Like, that's weird. But then for the first couple of days, when I would look at my toe, it would like make me question something about myself. I'm like, what does this mean that I have this like feminine looking color on my toe? Like, what does that mean about myself that I would do that? What do other people think of me? So that was an example. It was very clear that I had this visible thing on me that like made me question my own masculinity a little bit, and like made me more aware of how other people might think of my masculinity. Whereas like with like housework, I don't that kind of feeling of like questioning myself and either being curious or like concerned about what other people think of me isn't something that happens in terms of housework. I've been much more consciously and unconsciously concerned about a sort of masculine appearance than like an explicitly masculine presence, at least in terms of like the kinds of um I don't know, like the things I do in my day to day, and like housework. I'm just not. That's like not something that I'm concerned about being seen as less of a man. But if I like
Yeah.
were wearing something very feminine, I would be much more conscious of like, what does this mean about me, and what do other people think of me? So
That makes sense in a way because like your appearance can like put you up for more judgment than like what you do inside of your home. Like, there's no live stream of you being at home, you know, doing dishes or whatever. But like when you're outside, you're performing in a certain way, and like it helps to be within the right bounds. Otherwise, there's like serious discomfort left or right of like this lane. So yeah, I mean
part of what patriarchy has done to many of us has limited our ability to be our whole selves. And again, we can talk more about domination and the ways that men have been really, really harmful. But I think the undoing leads to like more unlimited possibilities. Shame feels terrible, and so it's natural that we want to run away from it, especially if we've got no literacy or like support around how to be with that when we're younger. And when we feel that, many of us are told, you know, like that's not appropriate, that's not okay. And it also means that when we fuck up, like we don't really have the tools or the capacity to be with ourselves to be like, oh, I'm really messed up, and I need to like be with that feeling. I need to like make amends to the degree that I can and actually change my behavior. Instead, you're told like don't show that you're fucking up. Like don't show that you've made a mistake. Like do whatever you can to not show that and keep it moving, which often leads us to be more destructive or to do things that are, you know, helping us avoid being with ourselves. So, you know, I want to say something about race and whiteness, but I don't know if now is the moment to do that. White male manliness has been like founded on multiple levels of domination, and like teasing that apart and trying to like make sense of what about being a man is good is, I think, quite difficult. And um, being with the shame of like the history of what it's meant to be a white man, being with the shame of the like ways that we naturally show up because of our conditioning. Naturally is the wrong word, but like how we show up because of our socialization in ways that are harmful to other people, and like coming to terms with that, and then like wanting to be a quote unquote good like white man in like social justice spaces, and then fucking up and being like, oh my god, like I'm trying to be everything I can be to be, you know, aligned with the work of social justice, and I just did something really harmful that like has some connection to race or some connection to gender, and I'm like, and then that brings so much shame, and so we have to like work through that shame to be able to continue to be with ourselves and be with other people. So all to say, I think like whiteness and gender together, it's just more layers to work through in terms of undoing domination and building something that's positive, like for ourselves, that's not rooted in whiteness and that's not rooted in any masculinity that's harmful.
you receive your privilege through your male, through your like through being in a male body. So and that's also the most blinding aspect of it as well, because like men of color can act like white men in the all people of color settings. Like we have the same inability to see the humanity in somebody else that you manifested by a black person, by a black man and a white man as well. So it's just it's interesting, like the work that needs to be done. I feel like black masculinity has more like it's like I don't know, it's more pressure in a sense to stay within the balance. It would be like the the cost of staying of stepping outside the bounds might actually be that like not too far away.